Do you remember when I said I was done talking about conformity gate? Right. Right. I can't help it. It's like every time I try to walk away, I just get this feeling in the back of my neck, like something's going on. And today, my friends, we have our notebook. We have our Christmas lights up because something is going on and we need to get to the bottom of this. There's a lot that we have to discuss today, but I'm going to start off with the One Last Adventure documentary. Yes, I did sit through that again just to take notes for you. So, you're welcome. In order to get to the bottom of this, we need to look at the Duffer Brothers. We need to try to understand why they do what they do, why they say the things they say. The One Last Adventure documentary came out 12 days after. It was 12 days, wasn't it? I just realized that. The One Last Adventure documentary came out 12 days after the finale, and it's about the making of Stranger Things Season 5. And this documentary was underwhelming and, quite frankly, embarrassing. But upon further inspection, I do think that there's more to this documentary than meets the eye. So, you gotta stay with me on this one. Let's get into it. Alright, so the documentary starts off strong with the Duffer Brothers saying, "You see these shows that people love and adore, and the ending falters, and they just discard the rest of the show." They start off by saying how they can't mess this up because whenever a good show fails in the end, it totally ruins it and people don't go back to rewatch it. It completely taints the experience of rewatching a show when the ending is bad. So that's really ironic to start off of them talking this big game like, we cannot mess up. This is our biggest season yet. And then we got what we got. Okay. They said they went into production without a finished script. Again, I believe this is a lie because we'll talk about it later, but they said that they wrote it back in 2022, 2023. They had a lot of time to work on it during COVID, during the writer's strike. So for them to say that they didn't finish it, I don't believe that. One of the first scenes we see in this documentary are the Duffer Brothers in the writer's room with their other writers, and they talk about Elle's impending death.
So it has to be building towards 11 seconds.
Which is a horrible thing to say. Crazy the way they were talking about one of their biggest characters. It kind of felt like they were mocking the situation. They were like, we don't know if Elle's gonna kill herself. Oh, just kidding, she's not. Just kidding, she is.
We think she's made the choice to live. I don't know. Just kidding, she hasn't. Just kidding, she did. Like, that's where I don't know if we have to play it like that.
It just felt really disrespectful and off, and even the other writers in the room are going, like, ooh, like, why are you saying this right now? One of the Duffer Brothers say, Will is the heart and soul of season 5. I'm gonna try to keep my thoughts calm and collected when I talk about this. For them to say, Will Byers is the heart and soul of season 5. Just for them to completely discard him in the end, to throw him to the side, to even go as far as to forgetting his birthday and erasing him out of the end credits scenes. They erased him out of the pictures. But I have a theory that goes with that, so we're going to talk about it later. But for them to say Will is the heart and soul of season 5, then to completely erase him from the story, don't piss me off. And then in the new Tales from 85 trailer, Will doesn't say a single word. It seems like Will has no lines in the show, based on what they showed us. But Will is the heart and soul. Right. Moving on. In the documentary, we see the Duffer Brothers, we see the writers, we see cast and crew all wearing shirts that are kind of sus. There was a Home Alone shirt. Home Alone is one of the movies that's referenced for season 5. When they're showing the kids around in the Max Z military base, one of the Duffer Brothers is like walking with this little girl and she says, "You made 2 bathrooms?" And he said, "We made 2 bathrooms." And she said, "That's crazy."
We made 2 bathrooms. We just figured this out.
Now this is probably has nothing to do with anything, but it's weird that they specifically included that. Like, you made 2 bathrooms? I could just be reaching with this. I'm well aware of that. But what if we're not just talking about bathrooms? I don't know. The scene where Karen Wheeler has to fight off the Demogorgon in her kitchen, one of the brothers said, "We need to see the feet and the phone in your hand." Do you remember when I talked about in the first video how Karen Wheeler had a phone next to her when Nancy and Elle found her on the floor? And then when Holly went through that same memory later, she did not have a phone next to her. So we don't know who she was trying to call. We don't know if she ever made that call. But they did point out, we want the phone next to you. So the phone does have a purpose. We're just not sure what.
Yeah, and your foot here. We're trying to see your feet and then the phone is in your hand.
The actress for Karen Wheeler says, I feel like I don't know how I survive. And the Duffer Brothers go, you should be dead. And remember how I said it's possible that she didn't survive? The way they go about things in this documentary just seems so out of pocket and disrespectful. Like the way they talk about these characters. The woman who does like the wardrobe, she went up to the Duffer Brothers and she was showing them Collie's design. And she said, without knowing the ending, and then they completely cut her off and say, she's gonna be shot.
She is going to be shot.
Oh. Okay. Aren't we just talking about her outfit though? Like the whole documentary is just these two men saying these weird, disrespectful, like out of pocket things or just looking like idiots. It's the oddest thing. This is why when the documentary came out, everyone was just mad and disappointed and angry with the Duffer Brothers, and rightfully so. You're talking about, oh, we don't know how it ends. We don't know what we're doing. Collie got shot though. Okay. One of them says, it's not like we don't know what the ending is. It's all plotted out. One of them wears a shirt that says True Lies on it. All right, when they're talking about the final fight with the big monster, they're kind of just sitting around clueless. One of them says, what's going on in the abyss? Shouldn't you guys know what's going on in the abyss? And then Matt says, the thing that's cool is the giant monster. And again, if we think back to the interview where they're talking about dreams and being in the mind of a serial killer, that's way more unsettling and creepy and cool to them than a giant CG monster. So for them to be in this documentary going, the thing that's cool is a CG monster, it feels inauthentic.
I don't even know what a chase looks like. It'll outrun them so quickly.
This is it's like they're pointing out how dumb their own script is, which makes me think that it's not real. Because if they're actually proud of this season and they really think that they cooked with this, then they should stand 10 toes behind it and they should defend it and they should be proud of it and be like, yeah, this giant monster is really awesome, you guys. Instead, they're like, wouldn't it outrun the kids? And of course, we have the infamous scene where Paul goes, there has to be monsters in the abyss. There has to be demo bats or demogorgons or something. And then Kate goes, I'm worried about demo fatigue. And then they just go, Like, why would they include this in there? Why would they include this in there? They're like intentionally pointing out their mistakes. Like this all feels very deliberate. This feels like it's kind of in our faces at this point. This is why I believe it's a mockumentary, because why are you pointing out your mistakes like that? At least pretend to know what you're doing. A lot of the set designers, the writers, the screenwriters, the film crew, everybody's just the entire documentary talking about, oh, I don't have these sets ready in time. I'm not going to have enough time. We're still waiting on a script. We're still waiting on the Duffer Brothers to give us something. The entire time in this documentary, everybody seems so stressed and confused. On the other hand, they keep glazing the Duffer Brothers at the same time. On one hand, everybody in this crew are talking about, we don't know how we're going to get this in time. We're getting pressure by Netflix. We don't have a script yet. We don't know what we're doing. On the other hand, they're also saying the Duffer Brothers are geniuses. We're never going to have a job like this again. Like, this is the pinnacle of our career. Like, all of our jobs from here on out are going to be boring compared to this. So on one hand, they're stressed out complaining and they're like, oh, we don't know what we're doing. On the other hand, they're like, this is the best job we've ever had and will ever have. And the Duffer Brothers are brilliant. And they keep mentioning detail. They keep mentioning how Stranger Things pays attention to detail like no other show. And that working on this project is the biggest honor of their lives because of the attention to detail. They bring up detail a lot. I think they're trying to keep reminding us, pay attention to detail, because they're drilling it in our heads. It doesn't really make sense for them to keep contradicting themselves, being like, the Duffer Brothers are geniuses and Stranger Things pays attention to detail like no other show. But also, we don't know what we're doing. Like, nothing is prepared. We can't get this ready in time. It's like, I don't know if both can be true at once, right? Because if we're so dedicated to detail, then it should already be written and ready to go. It should already be planned out. But apparently it wasn't. But I think it was. I think it was. When they're talking about the pain tree, where Vecna is and all the kids are on the spires, and it's inside the monster, so there's, you know, ribs, and there's flesh, and there's bone. One of the writers say, "What's the guy with the nose that grows?" And then another person says, "Pinocchio." And he says, "It's like Pinocchio when he got swallowed by the whale." Out of all the things you could reference, why reference the character whose nose grows every time he lies? Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe just a coincidence. Oh yeah, and then when they're building this pain tree, remember how I mentioned the dragon-like scales? Yes, one of the set designers say, almost with these dragon skin kind of details. So he does say, it looks like a dragon. Jamie is shown talking to one of the Duffer brothers about Henry and Patty and the Creel house. He's kind of just talking about his backstory that we see in the play. Except remember, they did not show us the stuff from the play. So interestingly, like, planted that in there. They showed us that they're referencing the play. Jamie is seen wearing a Ways to Die shirt, and one of the things on the shirt says stuck in a cave. Like, you can die getting stuck in a cave. It's just kind of funny and ironic for Henry. And as we know, they started shooting episode 8 before it was written because they needed to get the look of summertime in those shots with Holly and Derek. One of the Duffer brothers says, "I never even read 8 through and we're just shooting it." Again, why would you admit this stuff? If this is real, like this is actually how you went about things, why would you admit that on camera? Like, bro, this is not doing you any favors in your career or your status whatsoever. Oh, something I've noticed, both in the documentary and also in post interviews with the cast, everybody refers to the finale as episode 8, not the finale. They always say episode 8 specifically. And I don't know if this is just film etiquette. Is this a normal thing where you just never mention the finale as the finale and you just only mention the episode number? Because it's odd, like how many times I've seen the cast talk about episode 8 in interviews and they always say episode 8. They don't say the finale. They say when we were shooting episode 8. They don't say when we were shooting the finale. And I just think that was an interesting thing to point out. But again, I don't know if that's just like a thing in the film industry or if that's something to take note on. When Sean Levy is directing the scene in the hospital where Karen Wheeler blows up the dryer, Sean says, "Is it too late to ask if the fourth window can break?"
Is it too late to ask if the fourth window could break?
Never too late.
Then we're shown the final script reading for the final episode, or episode 8. Everyone's very emotional, of course. A lot of them grew up on the show. It was a very emotional moment. You see the cast crying. You see the visible frustration on their faces. There's a lot of emotions in the room. When Hopper says you get one more take in the table read, he says it very loud. He goes, "One more take, Jonathan." He really emphasized that one. But it's funny because like they're just chopping it up. Obviously, they're not showing us the entire table read because that would last hours. So they're just showing us little clips of it. But I think it's interesting they decided to include the one more take line, and they also included Dustin saying "screw conformity." When they're filming the CGI monster scene, the cast is very confused as to what to do and which way to run. Again, it's like embarrassing to watch. And you can't help but feel bad for them because no one knows what's going on. Someone on the team is wearing a shirt that says "Possession is only the beginning." There's a lot of moments in this documentary where it seems like the people in it are acting, and it's hard to know for sure, but when the Duffer brothers are talking about Bob's death being the most gruesome thing they've ever filmed and that no other death has been as gruesome as that, they cut to Natalia and she's just kind of like, her faces are over exaggerated. She's just like,
It's less like notes, it's more like, I'm not sure you got that scene, and you're like, oh shit.
When Jamie wraps up filming, he says, "I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to see you Thursday," meaning like he's going to come back for like the last shooting of Stranger Things to watch everybody else. But at the end of the documentary, after the kids film their final scene and everybody's crying, everybody's emotional, Jamie is nowhere to be found in that room. And I'm not saying he wasn't there, but he's definitely not shown. All right, at the very end, Finn makes a speech and you can see like dust particles coming down and there's like, it's like blue lighting. and he looks up and he says, something's definitely coming. And I think that he's just talking about the confetti. Like, I think that the blue dust that we see is just pre-confetti air. But a lot of people, like, a lot of people pointed out this looks like the Upside Down. And also him saying something's definitely coming. Mike's first line in the show is something's coming. So it's like, it was cute to see Finn say something's definitely coming for his final speech. I don't necessarily believe this meant anything, but it was still cool, and people were right. I mean, like, the blue lighting and the dust particles coming down, it does kind of like resemble the Upside Down. But again, I don't really think this meant anything. I think he was just talking about like the confetti cannon going off. So those are my notes on the documentary. Another thing I want to point out though is that when the documentary was going to come out a few days before, the Stranger Things page on Instagram were advertising the upcoming documentary. And in one of the reels, it starts off with Finn saying they were lying. And they emphasize it with subtitles. This doesn't have to mean anything, but it is kind of a weird clip to start off a reel with, and even weirder to add those dramatic subtitles to it. And then again, like, there's just so much mention of lying for some reason. When that documentary came out, it was painful to watch. It was a rough watch. I watched it, my heart kind of sank because I was like, damn, that's really it. It's really disappointing that they stopped caring about the show and that they got lazy in the end, and this is really all we got. But it wasn't until I watched Behind the Curtain, the documentary about the first shadow, when I changed my mind again. And I was like, wait, something is up. And so I did take some notes. We're going to go through the first shadow documentary really quick. This isn't going to take too long, I don't think. But I did rewatch it because I needed to compare it side by side to the One Last Adventure documentary to kind of prove to you why I think One Last Adventure was a bunch of bullshit. The first shadow play, which premiered in 2023, one of the Duffer Brothers says it's a love story, and it is. But one thing I caught though is that he said there are not so subtle hints as to what is to come in season 5 and beyond.
And listen, there are also, some not so subtle hints as to what is to come in season 5 and beyond.
I didn't notice this the first time I watched it, but he says season 5 and beyond. In the play, there are not so subtle hints as to what is to come in season 5 and beyond. He could be talking about the spin-off. He could be talking about Tales from 85. But this is about Henry's backstory. And he's dead now. Like, even in like a spin-off or Tales from 85, why would we need to go back to Henry Creel's story specifically? Season 5 and beyond? Also, like I said, we didn't really see Henry's backstory in season 5. They totally scaled down and only showed us a tiny fraction of Henry compared to like his whole story in the play. They did not really reference it at all. So for the Duffer Brothers to say there are not so subtle hints as to what is to come in season 5 and beyond, I can't help but be like, what else is there then? What else is there then? What does beyond mean? Also, there's a ship in the beginning of the play that appears into another dimension. It disappears and reappears in another dimension. So I'm like, wait a second. So they are doing other dimension things. Like maybe there is quantum leaping happening. Quantum physics. And how do we know it didn't happen with our characters in the show? One of the Duffer Brothers say Henry is a boy on stage that ends up being a serial killer. And then this just brings me back to that one interview where they said that for season 5, they really wanted to enter the mind of a serial killer. Mind of Vecna, like, you know what I'm saying? Also, Kate Treefy is the one that did the heavy lifting for the writing for the first shadow. She went all the way to London to write it. She worked on it for months and months, and she wrote it multiple times. She said she rewrote it like 25, 35 times. And Kate calls the Duffer Brothers story geniuses. She says she misses them, that they are brilliant, and that they are story geniuses. And that's not the impression we got. We watched One Last Adventure, and we were like, these guys are not geniuses. But no, Kate's like doubling down. These men are geniuses. So I'm like, what have we not seen? What is going on? Because everybody's talking about how Stranger Things is the most detail-oriented show that there is, and that the Duffer Brothers are geniuses. Everybody's sucking up to them and talking about how brilliant they are. I'm like, are they all lying? I don't think it's likely all of them are lying. Okay, this is a big one. This is a big one. So they're talking about scaling down whatever they're showing in the play. They're going to scale it down. Kate says we have to do about 80% less because we're going to be able, she says, we're going to be able to tell very little of the story of bleep. They censor her out.
Guys, and it's just gonna be whatever we want it to be. It's gonna be like 80% less. We're gonna be able to do like 80% less. We're gonna be able to tell very little of the story of. We're gonna be able to say that something happened, but we're really not gonna be able to say that because they want to preserve the reveal for season 5. Yeah.
Season 5 and bleep? What haven't we seen? What is she referring to that they can't show too much of in the play, otherwise it'll spoil something that we're going to see. But she says season 5 and bleep. What? Even after watching season 5 in its entirety, I still can't figure out what she's referring to. What's the big reveal that's going to be spoiled in season 5 and bleep? Because I highly doubt it's going to be in Tales from 85, because that looks... The Duffer Brothers flew to England and saw like a rough first draft of the play. And afterward, when they were talking about like the, you know, their notes and everything, they said, well, one thing we didn't like is that you took Kate away from us. We were still working on season 5.
I don't like about it is that you kind of took Kate away from us. We were still working on season 5. So that was that's
It's
the
not
only...
true. I totally delivered. Absolutely.
It's true.
Past tense. We were still working on season 5. This is 2023, mind you. They're saying this. And Kate responds, that's not true. I totally delivered on season 5. Again, past tense. They're saying, oh, we just don't like that you guys took Kate away from us, our brilliant writer. She was helping. We were still working on season 5. And then she claps back and says, not true. I delivered on season 5. So they are confirming that they wrote it already. They're confirming that they wrote it already. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I don't believe that they were just rushing and doing it all last minute. They had years to work on this. They're confirming in the 2023 documentary that they worked past tense on season 5. There's no other explanation. It means that there's something more up their sleeve, or they scrapped everything that they made and then rushed to make something shitty. Oh yeah, and then there's that ominous, I already included this clip in my first Conformity Gate video, but then there's that ominous, sweet dreams are made of these. And it was just kind of creepy and just out of nowhere. So I'm like, dreams. So yeah, that's pretty much all the notes I have on the First Shadow documentary. But what I did notice is that in both documentaries, right, there's a deadline, there's pressure, there's stress, there's rewrites. There's bouncing off ideas. There's workshopping, right? The difference is, in the One Last Adventure documentary, everybody's just like confused and they're like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's happening. But in the First Shadow, even when there's confusion and there's stress and there's deadlines, everybody's locked in. Like, it doesn't matter that, you know, they don't know what's happening because they know that they got this. And there's just like a difference in like confidence and direction in the First Shadow versus One Last Adventure, to the point where when you watch them side by side, I just can't help but think One Last Adventure is a mockumentary because of the, first of all, the crazy things they say, and then like the exaggerated expressions and responses, and the fact that the cast and crew keep talking about how smart and how detailed the Duffer Brothers are and how respected they are and how this is the best job they're ever gonna get, and how working on Stranger Things is the highest honor, and that there's no other show that pays attention to detail this way. You know, it just doesn't really make sense as to why is everyone just sucking up to them if at the end of the day they're just idiots who didn't know what they're doing. You know, it makes me think that they do know what they're doing and that there's more to the story we're not being shown. Because what do you mean? There's hints in the First Shadow to come for season 5 and beyond. No, we're saving the reveal for season 5 and blank. You know, what is that other thing? What is that other thing that we haven't watched yet? So those were the documentaries. I highly suggest you watch them on your own if you haven't. And if you only watch one, or the other, I would actually suggest you watch The First Shadow, because it'll help you see like how locked in and how seriously they took this. And I just have a hard time believing they would put their 100% into a Broadway play and then put 17% into their major blockbuster Netflix show. You know what I mean? Back in 2022, after season 4 came out, there was a Stranger Things experience pop-up that happened in multiple cities. I think it's still going on in some other cities in other parts of the world. But in 2022, I actually got to go to the Stranger Things experience in Brooklyn, and it was so fun. It was so camp. It was so camp, and it was so corny, and I loved it. Kind of felt like you're waiting for a ride at Disney World, where this like immersive experience of someone being like, we need your help, you're our only hope. It's like a meta experience of like, you're part of the experience and you save the day, you know? But it basically, the whole premise was you're going to the Hawkins lab to volunteer for a sleep experiment. And all these years later, I'm thinking back to it and I'm like, sleep experiment? Bro, they keep going back to dreams. This whole idea of dreams, we keep going back to that theme. There were also like Easter eggs hidden all over the place, and you can interact with them with QR codes, and then you could also like win a prize if you collect them all. And even in this like Stranger Things pop-up, you know, where it's really just to sell you stuff at the end of the day, like it's capitalism at the end of the day. Even in that, like there were so many details hidden everywhere, and it was so immersive and so special. I have a hard time thinking they don't care about this show. Let's talk about Henry and Will's birthday real quick. There was a behind the scenes video of Jamie Campbell Bower, and it was like behind the scenes birthday video for him. And I came across this video, and in some scenes he has white hair randomly.
This is the mad thing about this show, is just like the utter dedication to detail. It's absolutely ridiculous how incredible they are. This is where we made Vecna come to life.
He has white hair randomly, and from the back he looks like Dr. Brenner. But then it cuts back and he has the regular like dirty blonde hair. And then it cuts back and he's white hair again. When has Jamie Campbell Bower had white hair in the show? Like, I don't think it's very likely that he sat down, did this interview, and then got a hair appointment to make his hair platinum, and then he came back to the studio to finish the interview. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that happened. So why does he have white hair half the time? And then in the One Last Adventure documentary, he is nowhere to be seen at the very end, even though he said that he was going to come back. We don't see him in the end. But in this video pointed out that there is a Coca-Cola shirt. Like, on surface level, this may not seem like anything, but Coca-Cola has been a proud sponsor of Stranger Things. It's obvious. It's obvious. This show is always showing us close-ups of Coke. There's this weird scene in season 3 that I want to talk about real quick. Multiple people have brought this up, that I wouldn't have made this connection, okay? When the kids are in the convenience store, they're bandaging up Eleven's leg, and they're grabbing fireworks to fight the Mind Flayer. Lucas opens up a can of new Coke and he starts drinking it. And then he and Mike get into an argument in the middle of the supermarket about new Coke.
How do you even drink that? Because it's delicious. What?
And that scene feels so out of place because it's just like, okay, this is an obvious ad.
Sweeter, bolder, better. You're insane.
New Coke came out April 23rd, 1985. The feedback was so atrocious because nobody liked the new recipe. Everybody wanted to go back to the original Coke. So only after 77 days, New Coke retired and they brought back the original Coca-Cola. Only after 77 days. April 23rd, 1985 was when New Coke came out. What is coming out April 23rd this year? Tales from 85. And what is Tales from 85? The show nobody asked for. The show that nobody wants. We want the original thing. What is 77 days after April 23rd? July 9th, which is only 1 week from Stranger Things' 10th anniversary. I'm not saying something is going to happen July 9th. I'm not a fan of predicting dates. I'm not going to be your person to predict dates, okay? But there was so much emphasis in that New Coke scene. They're even arguing about The Thing, the movie The Thing.
It's like Carpenter's The Thing. The original is the classic. No question about it. But the remake? You're insane. So, you prefer the original Thing? What? No, I'm not talking about the thing. I'm talking about a new Coke. It's the same concept, dude.
Which is another big inspiration for Stranger Things. Also, there's a big Thing poster in Mike's basement. And if we think about the Thing, and we think about like possession or disease or, you know, like passing on from one thing to another. Let's think about season 2, when Will was possessed. The Stranger Things writers said that season 2 would be a very important rewatch before watching season 5. But this doesn't make a lot of sense because season 5 didn't really relate to season 2 much at all, in my opinion. Unless something else is going on, and if Will is being possessed again, like remember, Vecna told Will, we're gonna do beautiful things together, and he told Will, you will be my spy one last time, and then we didn't see anything else about that. The only thing we saw is that Vecna sent Demogorgons to the hospital to get Max. That's it. That's all he used Will for. And then in the beginning of Shock Jock, Joyce, Will, Lucas, and Mike are walking through the tunnels. Will calls the children vessels. And then Mike and Lucas look back at him, like sussed out. They were like, what did you just say? And then Will quickly corrects himself. He's like, that's just what Vecna calls them. And the way he says it is so odd. And the look on Will's face, like, looks like he got caught, like, looks like he's guilty. And this led so many of us to believe that he's being possessed again, or he's being manipulated heavily by Vecna or the Mind Flayer once again, like he was in season 2. But then nothing happened. Nothing became of it. At least we think. I don't know. I still have my suspicions about Will and Vecna's connection, because that's always been a really important thing. They even have the same birthday. Will and Henry have the same birthday. You can't tell me that was by mistake. And then they just conveniently forgot his birthday. And talking about birthday gate. So Will is the only character in the show, I believe, to canonically have a birthday. I mean, everybody has a birthday, but you know what I mean? Like, for all we know, we only know Will's specific birthday date. We don't really know the other characters' birthdays, but we know Will's, and we know Henry's, March 22nd. Joyce even talks about it in season 2, when Will's being possessed and she's trying to talk to him and trying to reach him. She says, do you know what March 22nd is? It's your birthday. So we mention it in season 2. And then in season 4, when the kids are at the roller rink, someone's using their camcorder and they're filming the roller rink, and we see the date, March 22nd. But they never talk about Will's birthday. None of the characters acknowledge Will's birthday. But in Will's room, hung up on his wall, you can just see a little sliver of a birthday card, and it says, I forgot your birthday. There's a lot of intention put in the set design for these characters' rooms. That could be a whole other video. But the Duffer Brothers didn't forget Will's birthday. Because for them to even plant a hidden Easter egg in his room, like I forgot your birthday card, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Also, the Stranger Things writers tweeted years and years ago, they said, some friends forget to play D&D and some forget birthdays. It happens. They acknowledge this and they own up to it. When season 4 came out and everybody initially got angry about everybody forgetting Will's birthday, the Duffer Brothers acted surprised by it. They said, oh, our bad. We didn't mean to do that. We're going to go back and change season 2. We're going to go back and edit season 2. And Joyce is going to say a different day, not March 22nd. But they never went back and changed it. She still says March 22nd. They never went back and edited that. I think that this was intentional. And we forgot Will's birthday. I don't think that's a mistake. I think that they are intentionally erasing Will Byers for a reason. And if Vecna is using Will in any way, he would want to take him away from his loved ones. He would want to take him away from Mike, especially. But it would make sense as to why people are starting to forget things about him. And then Joyce said in season 5, when she's talking to Will by the barn, she says, what kind of mother doesn't check on her 11-year-old child? But he was 12 when he went missing, not 11. And I think they plant these details in there on purpose. I don't think you can just forget your own main character multiple times. And for them to say Will is the heart and soul of season 5, just to completely sideline him. And maybe this is me just wanting more for Will Byers because I'm such a Will Byers fan that I just really can't acknowledge anybody forgetting him or throwing him under the bus. Like, I think his story arc is so incredibly tragic and so heartbreaking. And even in season 3, he said, I'm not going to fall in love. And then they never give him a love interest. Well, they do, Mike, but then they just build a slow burn rejection. And Mike never returns his love for Will. At least we don't see it in the show, right? So they just keep crushing Will Byers under their feet, trampling on them, stomping on them, spitting on him. Like, they are not giving Will Byers the love and the story he deserves. But if he is being used by Vecna, if he is a vessel for Vecna, or if he's the eye of Vecna, which is a D&D thing, it would make sense for Vecna to pull him away from his loved ones and make them forget things about him, make the audience forget things about him. I just don't think that the writers can mess up this bad. I understand making some mistakes and forgetting some details, but it's Will Byers. And like, the first episode of the show is called The Vanishing of Will Byers. What if that has a different meaning? Like, what if he's vanishing in front of our eyes? What if the vanishing of Will Byers wasn't just him getting kidnapped into the Upside Down? What if it was genuinely he's being erased from the story on purpose? Because at the end of the day, the main theme of the show is love. It's community, it's friendship, it's connection with one another. You know, like, it helped Max get out of her coma. It helped Max reach her loved ones. And it also helped Will snap out of his possession multiple times when Mike snapped him out of it. Also is the same theme with Henry and Patty in The First Shadow. Like, the show has always been about love. Its heart and soul is love. The fact that they treat Will this way, and they completely destroy his character and give him the most tragic story. I mean, I think that 11 also has an equally tragic, if not more tragic story than Will, but like, they're kind of mirrors of each other. But for Will Byers, for them to do all this to Will for no reason is just cruel. And I don't think that they forgot his birthday on purpose, especially with the writers tweeting that about forgetting birthdays and the birthday card in his room. You know, and then the fact that he has the same birthday as the villain of the story. There's plenty of things we can pass off as mistakes, but this isn't one of them. Speaking of the vanishing of Will Byers, there was this tweet. Back in 2019, the Stranger Things writers wrote, "Anyway, I think you'll blank. Sorry I couldn't get it done, blank. But you mean so, blank. And it's been blank. Hope this is blank. Last until blank. Love, blank." And everybody thought that this was about Will. And a lot of us theorized that it's from Mike, but we don't know for sure because it's half of it's blanked out. Tell me why Stranger Things released this official merch and it's a mixtape and it says "For Will" on it. And it's not just one item, it's multiple items. But we aren't shown what it is. We're never shown the mixtape in the show. We don't know who it's from. We don't know if Will ever got it. But they released official merch for Will, and it's a mixtape. Now, this could be one or two things. It could either be, one, they were gonna include this in the show, and they scrapped it, but they had already sent out all these designs because, you know, production takes a long time. So maybe this merch came out and then awkwardly had no connection to season 5 because they scrapped everything and then rewrote it last minute. Or this is an Easter egg for something we haven't seen yet. And it, you know, there's no way for us to know for sure, at least right now. It seems like it's been in the cards for a while because they made that tweet back in 2019. Then in 2025, they come out with this mixtape merch, and it's never addressed in the show. It's so hard to talk about Stranger Things without turning it into Byler. And it's not because I'm a Byler shipper, even though I am, and that's like, it's all I think about day and night. It's like, it's all I watch are Byler edits. All I do is Byler out. It's so integrated in the plot of Stranger Things. Like, Mike and Will's dynamic is so deeply woven into the heart of the show. It's more than a ship. You don't even have to ship them romantically. Just even their friendship, you know, it's so intertwined with Stranger Things. And so that's why this mixtape is not only suspicious, but it just seems like it's from Mike, because who else could it be? Some people think it's from Jonathan, but there would be no need to like blank out his name because everybody knows Jonathan already made mixtapes for Will, so that's not like some big reveal. The van scene where Will gives Mike the painting, it apparently took 12 hours to shoot.
I loved the scene with Will in the car talking about 11, but he's talking about himself.
Yeah, that was it's like a half a day shooting that scene from getting every angle. It was an important scene to get right.
They really wanted to get that right, and it's very beautifully shot. It's a great scene, right, for many reasons. But why put so much emphasis on this van scene? Especially because they said that the painting would pay off. That's another thing, painting gate. Let's get into it. Finn asked the Duffer Brothers about the van scene where Mike gets the painting. He asks them, how does Mike not understand what's going on here? How does he not realize how Will feels about him? And the Duffer Brothers said, don't worry, it'll pay off in the end.
A lot with the Will scene, like in the car, I was like, what? How? I remember asking the Duffers, like, why would he not know this? And they were like, don't worry, it'll pay off in the end. And so I trust them.
Of course, we didn't get that payoff at all. And then, Noah is shown in so many interviews saying like they're building Byler up and to get excited and that we're gonna be happy about it. And then why? I know that the van scene was so important, but I can't help wonder why it took 12 whole hours to shoot. I mean, again, I know it's a lot of work to set up the cameras, get all the angles right, and then you want the actors to keep doing it until you get the right takes, the right expressions, the right, tone in their voice. But 12 hours just seems like a lot. And then there's this interview with Millie and Noah talking about the van scene. And Millie says that she loves the van scene. And then Noah looks a little bit nervous, like he does his spoiler face. Noah is known as the Tom Holland of the Stranger Things cast, where like he spoils everything. That boy loves to yap, and he spoils everything by accident, which is interesting that he has kind of been MIA and radio silent the past few months. Because, okay, if there were to be a big reveal or more to come, I think Noah had to like disappear off the face of the earth for a while because he spoils things too much. In the interview with Millie and Noah, she says, I love the van scene. And then Noah is like,
I love that scene. What? Season 4?
No.
What other van scene is there? I mean, there's a scene where Mike, 11, and Will are in the van after the roller rink incident, and they're just quiet in the back seat. But like, why would, I don't know, like why? And then there's a van scene in season 1, where 11 flips the van over with her mind. But I don't know why Noah made that face. Like stop talking. Is there another van scene? Did they shoot 2 van scenes? Is that why it took 12 hours? This next thing we're going to talk about is crazy. And it's weird, and I haven't figured out why this is happening, right? But there's a movie coming out called Billy Knight. And it's starring Charlie Heaton, who plays Jonathan in Stranger Things. And this movie looks kind of weird. It's kind of, the plot doesn't seem very clear. And the marketing team keeps posting these TikToks of the scenes from the movie, and there's Morse code over a lot of these. Hold on, my cat's crying. Buddy, say hi to Finn. Say hi to Finn. All right, so Billy Knight is kind of dropping these weird videos with Charlie Heaton, and there's Morse code, all right? This brilliant TikTok creator, Kelly Klemenko, has really been digging deep into the Billy Knight stuff. And the Billy Knight TikTok page keeps making comments on conformity gate videos. And one phrase they keep saying is question everything. Now pause. Let's watch this clip from a Netflix ad, okay?
This year you will question everything.
Everything?
This year you will question everything. And then Millie Bobby Brown responds to that. Millie Bobby Brown is in Stranger Things. In the advertisement, she's dressed as Enola Holmes. It's still Millie Bobby Brown, okay? Why is this movie using the same phrasing? And why are they interacting with conformity gate videos with Stranger Things fans? From a marketing standpoint, this is not a good marketing move. Because first of all, if conformity gate is not real, it's not even popular anymore. Those of us who are still on the conformity gate bus, we're very few and far between. Like, there's not a lot of us anymore. Most of the fans that got really hyped about conformity gate right after the finale have since fallen off of it because they don't want to get disappointed again, or they just see us as being delusional and crazy, and they think the Duffer Brothers are stupid idiots. They're not even willing to dig into this stuff, right? Do you remember the scene in season 1 where Joyce and Jonathan are arguing in downtown Hawkins, and he's saying that she's going crazy and that they need to plan Will's funeral because they found his body, and Jonathan's saying, you need to face this. We need to hold a funeral for Will. And Joyce is like, no, that's not my son. That's not happening. If you're watching this and you still believe in conformity gate, you and I, we're Joyce, okay? The rest of the Stranger Things fandom, they're Jonathan. And there's nothing wrong with that. I understand completely giving up on this theory and thinking it's too far-fetched, because it is, like, it's crazy. I know that. It's crazy. But those of us who still believe in conformity gate, we're Joyce. Like, we're the crazy looking ones, okay? It's not popular anymore. It's not a trend anymore. Conformity gate fell off. It's not cool anymore. We're seen as delusional. So from a marketing standpoint, this movie that's separate from Stranger Things should not get into conformity gate, because it's not even popular anymore. And again, if conformity gate's not true, then that's a bad look on you. It's a bad look on you to prey on conspiracy theorists who are seen as crazy, to try to get them to watch your movie with your Stranger Things star in it. But when Kelly and her friend messaged Alec Roth and they asked him, are we on the right path?
Because Jenna reached out to the director of Billy Knight, Alec Roth, and she just straight up asked him, are we on the right track with this college connection? And he writes back and he says, no two Stranger Things fans can solve this on their own. It's gonna take this number of fans. And when we saw that number, we just looked at each other like, wait, because if you watch Stranger Things, you know that's Susie's number for Planck's constant.
My mutual, their TikTok handle is +dog06. I love her takes. She actually makes a lot of videos pointing out the parallels between season 5 and Interstellar, which Interstellar is another inspiration for the Duffer Brothers when they made season 4 and 5. But there's a lot of Interstellar references as well, and she makes great videos on that. But she also wanted to fact check this, and she also messaged Alec Roth. And she basically asked him, like, hey, I don't know if this is your intention, but someone on your marketing team is commenting on conformity gate videos and getting involved with that. I just want to make sure we're not getting led astray. You know, like, don't take advantage of the Stranger Things community, basically. And she's like, I don't know if this is your intention or if this is what you want for your movie, but this is happening. And he doubled down and he responded, no. Stranger Things fans are not getting taken advantage of. I know this is happening. Why would this movie starring Charlie Heaton, why would the marketing team interact with conformity gate videos and make these cryptic videos with Morse code in them and feed into the conformity gate community and then double down? And then they just happen to drop the same number as Planck's constant. See, like, there's something going on here. I don't know. I still haven't figured out what this means, but I definitely recommend you check out Kelly's videos. She really is digging deep into this, and she keeps uncovering more and more about this movie. Let's talk about the WSQK again. WSQK broadcasts do sync up with the Stranger Things episodes in season 5. Actually, they match up with all of the season's episodes, but we specifically were looking at season 5. Someone commented on one of my last videos and they said that during the final battle, if you sync up the WSQK with the final battle, they rickroll us. They play Never Gonna Let You Down. And so I went looking for clips because I wanted to see proof, and it's true. Here are some more clips that sync up with the WSQK broadcast with the show.
Who's that? Sorry, there's a plumbing problem here.
You choose your combo. The stranger, the better. And
Mindy Flair, dusting off the records, dialing it up to the max.
Oh, sorry. We just heard from Haas. He's 15 minutes out, so we should probably leave at 5. Is everything okay?
Yeah, we'll be out in a minute.
Wait. I think you need to hear this too.
By Miss America.
Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. This world has only one sweet moment set aside for us.
The argument about the Stranger Things writers getting lazy, the Duffer Brothers getting lazy, for them to buy out a radio station, have these curated broadcasts that match up perfectly with the episodes, and even create their own characters, their own hosts, Mindy Flair and Vance Goodman, that's something that you only put together if you go searching for it and you do the work and you sync it up. The average Stranger Things fan wouldn't even know to do that and wouldn't even look up the WSQK or listen to it. So the fact that they put so much effort, even just in the fake radio station that they made up, and have it sync up with the episodes, like, that's not lazy writing. That's not something a lazy writer would do. I don't care. Like, the amount of detail they put in just for the advertisement and just for the other stuff that comes with the show. That's just, if they gave up on Stranger Things and they just wanted to move on to other projects and they didn't give a shit anymore, why do all of the broadcasts match up with the episodes? And why did they rickroll us during the final battle? You know, if that was the epic battle that we were all anticipating for 5 seasons straight, why did you rickroll us? You're laughing in our faces. That's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Someone also pointed out that the dial, when it changes color, when it's red, if you look closely, you can see like the imperfections in the paint and that it was like chipping and like, you know, dripping into the handle of the crank. So I went back and I watched Shock Jock, the scenes with the dial. Not only do you see the red paint like messily put on there, so it was like intentionally put on there, but they zoom in on this dial 5 times.
Watch out!
So that only goes to show that they wanted us to notice the dial change. They definitely did. Because why did you zoom in on it 5 separate times? And the paint job wasn't even done perfectly. Also, season 4 had a $270 million budget. Season 5, like we said, anywhere between 400 and 480 million budget. So they had like double the budget that season 4 had. And it visually looked worse. And it just, I don't know what they spent this money on. That's one of the big plot holes. Is like, what did they spend this money on? Like, we know they bought out Purple Rain, which is an expensive song to have. They know that they have big actors in the show that are expensive to have. For the Max Z, they rebuilt the whole like town, the downtown area of Hawkins. Like, that was very expensive to make, right? But still, I don't think it adds up to 480 million. What else did they spend this money on? For season 5, they have over 650 hours of footage. 650 hours of footage? Where's all that other footage? You know, like, yes, there's always gonna be behind the scenes stuff. There's always gonna be deleted scenes, and there's always gonna be like multiple takes of things. But 650 hours seems like way too much. Like, way too much. And again, they filmed over the course of an entire year. I feel like there's more that they're holding from us. Oh, also, in the Cult of Vecna, in the D&D Cult of Vecna, Vecna always needs a new host. So in the Cult of Vecna and D&D, there are multiple pregnant women that, you know, they keep having children. You know, they keep cycling out children because Vecna is a lich and he needs a new host. Isn't that kind of familiar with the pregnant women in the lab? Like, we didn't really do anything with that. We really don't know what happened with that. They just kind of blew up in the end. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of D&D references being used just to not just that we don't elaborate on, and I don't think it's by accident. Also, Jimmy Fasthands, the guy that Robin keeps mentioning that owns the WSQK studio, Jimmy Fasthands to me sounds like Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Fallon he's the Stranger Things guy. For every new season that drops, like, Jimmy Fallon is the guy for all the interviews for all the cast, and the Duffer Brothers went on before the season 5 finale, and they used the Funko Pops to like set up the scene of what's gonna happen in the finale. You know, like Jimmy Fallon is like kind of like a vessel to like spread Stranger Things news, and maybe this is unrelated, but I just thought Jimmy Fasthands sounds like Jimmy Fallon, and I do think that Jimmy Fallon like knows more than he leads on. I think that wraps up the video for today. I feel like the more time that goes on, the more I believe in Conformity Gate, which doesn't really make sense because, again, a lot of the hype died down and a lot of the fans left this theory altogether back in January when we were disappointed, when nothing happened on the 7th, and then nothing happened on the 12th, and then nothing happened at the Super Bowl. But those were all like fan-made dates. Like there was actual no evidence of something happening those dates. We just all kind of assumed that something would happen. So you would think that like the more time goes on, you know, eventually I have to let this go. And of course I will let this go. If genuinely nothing happens for the next few months, like I'm waiting until July at least, because, you know, that's the 10-year anniversary. I feel like they would at least announce something, even if they weren't going to drop something. Honestly, the more time that goes on, it only just reinforces my belief in this theory more and more. And it's not coming from a place of denial that the show is over. It's not coming from, you know, a place of delusion. It truly just from the bottom of my heart feels like there's something more. There's too many mistakes and inconsistencies that point towards something more. And it feels like a much bigger project than we're even aware. I truly believe that this is an ARG, that this is a game that we're all supposed to be a part of, and it's a team effort. And even like the director for Billy Knight, this like random movie no one knows about, is even saying that like one or two of us can't figure this out. There's got to be more of you. I'm making these videos not only because it's fun for me and it's interesting and I like to talk about the things that interest me, but also I have found community in this. I genuinely have found such great community in the Conformity Gate and Stranger Things fandom. It's even made me notice more things. When I rewatch Stranger Things, I notice more and more things that I never thought about before. Whether you believe or not, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm not going to promise you that something's going to happen because none of us know for sure. But what I will say is that if you believe in this theory, don't let anybody make you feel stupid for it. Don't let anybody make you feel crazy or delusional for simply wanting better, for simply wanting better for a story that you love and for the characters that you love. There's nothing stupid about having pattern recognition. There's nothing silly about noticing inconsistencies and noticing errors. It's not crazy to notice all the details and how they connect to one another. I think it's a gift to be able to notice all that and to connect with one another and point out things. And it doesn't mean that all of our theories are correct, but at the end of the day, if nothing happens, so what? So what? This has inspired so many people to write their own stories, and it's inspired really good art and fanfics, and it's helped a lot of us make friends. Even if nothing else comes of this, it's still a win in my eyes. It was still a win at the end of the day. Even if we got an ending that we didn't like, we got so many cool theories and ideas and art because of it. And that's why I'm a proud believer of Conformity Gate. I love being a part of this community, and it's okay to be cringe. Guys, it's okay to be cringe. One thing I learned is that I gotta stop caring about being cringe. This is what I like, and if anyone thinks it's weird, who gives a fuck? With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any more ideas or theories or something you want to point out, please comment, because I love reading your comments and I love talking about this stuff with you. Alright, well, bye.